Hey guys, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to add shadows in Photoshop. Hey guys, welcome to Calvin Designs. My name is Calvin and I design, and that's why it's called Calvin Designs. Click down here to subscribe to my YouTube channel, get all these tutorials as they come out, and click at the top here to sign up to my newsletter and blog, and you get all the free source files to this episode and every other tutorial that I do for free. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to add shadows in Photoshop and how to manipulate shadows so that they basically match the light source. The angle, perspective, blur, opacity, all these things. It's pretty simple, but it looks pretty cool. So let me show you. All right, so to start, go to my website and go to calvindesigns.com and click on the free lessons tab. It'll show up here. Now, obviously this episode isn't up yet because I'm recording it, but let's say it's showing up here. Just click on the episode, and once you've logged in and created a free account and logged in, just click on this big blue button, download source files, and that'll bring you this folder over here on your desktop, or actually a zip file, which you then double click to open, and you'll have these three files. To start, we'll actually open up the road JPEG, which you can see here. And we're actually going to go back to the Finder, so here, and we're going to open up the sky as well. All right, so with the sky, very simple. With the Move tool, just drag it over to this file. You'll notice it's much bigger. The sky is bigger than the road. So hold on the Alt Command key while holding on the hold on the Alt and the Command key while holding on the minus to zoom out. And let's name these. So this is sky, and this is road. Okay. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is just turn this sky here on multiply mode so we can see through. All right. Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit. And then Command T or Edit, Free Transform, somewhere around here. Free Transform. Here we go. Free Transform. And you notice this is much bigger than the road. So holding down the Alt and Shift brings it in. All right. So Shift maintains proportions. That way the length and the height are not being squeezed. And the option always makes you go to the center. So it's just a quick little shortcut. All right, one thing you want to do is we want to flip. I want the sun to be on the left side. So right click, flip horizontal. Look at that, pretty simple. All right, and then let's just zoom in a little bit. Command Option and plus. And I want the sun kind of cut up here. I want it really on the far edge, as far to the left as possible, like that. Maybe 1 or 2 pixels to the right. I use the arrow keys to do that. I kind of like the horizon here. It's pretty good. All right, so hit return. Okay on that, and bring this back to normal for now. Okay. All right. One thing I'm going to do is convert this to a smart object, and I'm doing this after I've reduced it so that it's not a too big a file. Okay. So sky is now a smart object, and let's actually do the outline first, and then we'll do the correction on the sky. So the outline is, I need the sky to be behind these mountains. So click on the road layer, go to the quick selection tool, and just select over here. Just do a big sort of brush over here. You can see it's pretty good to start with. And now holding on the Alt key, you just kind of say, don't want this, don't want that. Kind of follow along so it's nice and smooth, or as smooth as it can be, like so. Take this mountain in here, okay, something like that, and in here. Now this is going to be tricky. The snow is pretty close to the sky color, so sometimes it'll, oh, look at that, pretty good job. Sometimes the quick selection tool just works perfect. Okay, once you're done with this, you got a basic selection that you're pretty happy with. Click on the Select and Mask, and here it'll show you kind of what it's going to do. What I like to do in this case is I like to do a little edge detection, not too much, something like this. I want to see that it's kind of smooth, and I actually want to smoothen it out a little bit. All right, so something like this. So it kind of just evens out the lines. That's it. Pretty simple. And now I have this selection. So what I'm going to do actually is create a group down here. So click on the group and mask, apply the mask, the selection, turn it into a mask by clicking on the mask button on the group. Now, if I take the sky and I put it in the group, guess what? That mask is applied to the sky, which is exactly what I wanted. Okay, now we're going to do a little color correction on the sky, just to kind of, it's much too warm, this is pretty cold. So let's just go, and I'm in the sky. It's a smart object, so I'm going to go and do camera raw filter. Go in here, and we have a bunch of different little things here. The first thing I want to do is maybe the temperature, bring it a little colder. Like I said, it's too warm. -10 is pretty good. And maybe a little greener. We'll try that out. Yeah, kind of like that. Okay, and then we want it to be a little bit brighter, so almost a full stop. 0.9, it's pretty good. And what else do I want? I want to lower the contrast, because a high contrast sky, low contrast, I like the low contrast sky. Seems a little more real. So let's try to see how far I can break this. Yeah, I want it, yeah, pretty strong. Something like this. Okay, and then much too much color, so I'm going to turn on the vibrance to something like this. Actually, it's pretty good. Okay, it's almost black and white. It's not quite. I still have quite some color information, but let's try this. See what that looks like. Already integrates much better. Already much better. Okay, good. Next thing I want to do is create a new layer over here, and B for brush, which is over here, and let's make this a little bit bigger. And I'm going to use the Alt key, which turns the brush into the eyedropper. All right, and I'm going to pick a color, something like this. I'm looking for a color far on the horizon, a gray, and make it pretty big, like so. And I'm just going to, a little smaller, and I'm just going to brush here. I'm basically trying to create a bit of a haze in the horizon, okay? So something like that. Maybe make it a little bigger here, something like that, okay? So you can see the before and after. Maybe a little strong. So let's apply a little mask here. I hit mask, I create a layer mask, and 50% opacity. Make it a little bigger, and just kind of, some of these spots I'm just brushing out, just so we bring back some of the clouds. Anyway, I just wanted a little bit in the horizon there, so that's pretty good. All right, next thing we're going to do is, now we have the fog, we have the road, we have the clouds. The sun being right here, I actually want some highlight here in the road. So let's close this. Let's call this the sky. Okay, and let's go to quick mask. All right, so that's over here. Now quick mask. What is quick mask? If we go here, I'm just going to make a 100% opaque brush. If I click and I make this a few times, so I'm brushing this weird color, which is the mask color. If I come out of this, that became my selection. All right, now, but it is feathered in the way that it was being displayed in the quick mask. Okay, so Q for quick mask. That's the shortcut. And let's just deselect and go back into quick mask. I'm going to start over. Okay, so I just click once, like so. I come out of quick mask. Actually, I'm going to go back to quick mask to modify this. So Command T, or free transform, and I'm going to bring it right around here. I want the highlight to be right around here, and I want to stretch it out and thin it out. Okay, I want it like, yeah, something like that, almost thinner actually, something like this. Okay, get out of quick mask, and now that selection looks like this. And I'm going to create a curves. Okay, very simple, and it has that selection applied as a mask. And let's come down a little bit. So I want this to be way lighter. I want a little bit of an S curve, something like so. Okay. I don't want it too dark. Don't want it too light. But yeah, kind of like that. Okay. And I can always go ahead and move it around, see what it does. See, it's doing that color change to this area, which I really like. Something like that. All right. We can always go back and change it a little bit if we don't like it. So that's pretty simple. Now, let's go back to the Finder here, and I have this kids cut out. Now, I already cut out the kids because if you want to learn how to outline, I have an episode. If you go on the Calvin's tutorials on YouTube, or if you go to my channel, which you have a link to right below this video, you'll find a how to outline hair, how to cut out, and that shows you how to use the cutout features in Photoshop. So I've already done it to this, so this is very simple. We just click and drag it, and here we go. And it's a smart object, So pretty cool. All right, so we're going to, the first thing we're going to do is reduce them. So Command T, or Edit Free Transform. Now because they're bigger than what we see, we have to zoom out a little bit to see the bounding box. So just hold down the Alt and the Shift, okay? Something like so. I want their feet to be around the level of the first line here, so something like this. Now, because this is my reference point, I'm going to move that middle point right here. Okay, that way when I reduce or enlarge, it's always keeping that axis point. It's very, very useful little tool. I use it quite a bit. And all right, so I want the girl's head to be definitely above the horizon, and the boy's too. There's this little line here that I'd like to get rid of. So maybe his hand can go right in front of there. That would be kind of handy. So yeah, something like this, pretty good. Hit return. And all right, now a couple things. First of all, the color of these kids obviously are totally different than what's in the background, so we're going to fix that. Another thing is the hair needs a little work. So let's start with, let's call this kids. All right, and we'll make a copy. So right click and new smart object via copy. Okay, and we'll call this kids highlights. Okay. Now, what does that mean? I'm going to take this and I'm going to take the highlights and put it in screen mode. Very simple. And why is that? It's because there's a bunch of little hair here that I want to get rid of, but if I put it in normal, doesn't really work. And because the light is coming from behind them, so let's take the highlight and put it behind them. Now, if I go in here, and we're actually going to make a group of this, so group this. Okay. Good. I'm going to make a new mask for the kids, okay? So I'm going to hide the highlights for a second. And in the brush, what I'm doing, essentially, is hiding the edges. Let's zoom in one more time here. I'm going to hide these edges, right? And I'm masking them in this mask. So what happens is, as I'm doing this, is basically getting rid of it, okay? I'm going to undo that just so you can see with the highlights in the background. When I do this, it's keeping it all, but just really highlights. It's keeping it in that sort of a screen mode, which is really nice. Keeping all that little detail, but all the weird sort of darkness is gone. All right, let's go to a little lighter opacity here, like 50-ish. I'm going to do the same here. Everywhere I see this sort of a weird outline, I'm getting rid of it in this version, right? The dark version, so you can see the difference here, right? And we have the highlight just revealing that edge, which is nice. So something here, okay, something like that. All right, so now we have this. The next step would be to color correct this the kids here. So let's do that. I'm going to do that using Camera Raw. Okay, and it actually gives us the whole photo that was cut out from. And so it's pretty simple. First thing we're going to do is, once again, cool off the temperature a little bit. Try not to do this too much because it goes really far. I know it's -10 out of however much, but anyway, I usually try to go pretty easy on that. Something like this. Let me go a little further here. I'm trying to get away from that sort of warm tone that I had. Okay, and then I want to darken it a little bit. It was pretty high. It was pretty light. So yeah, something like 0.6 is good. Plus, because I'm going to add some contrast, I want to add some contrast, so I had to kind of lower the exposure or it gets too bright. And in the shadows, let's see, yeah, I kind of want to darken the shadows there. See, the light is coming from behind them, so I'm trying to maintain that integrity by having the hairs really show as highlight and stuff. Okay, and the whites, what do we do? How do I want to do that? I can darken it just a bit, not too much. 20 is pretty much, but I like it. All right, and then let's add a little bit of clarity to kind of get that sharpness in the midtones. So plus 10 or so, it's fine. And let's reduce the vibrance considerably to make it closer to black and white without losing all the color. Something like this. All right, let's see. Hit OK, and boom. See, I mean, it's definitely lost a lot of color, but it looks much more fitting in the scene. And we'll come back and revisit the color a little bit. For now, we have we're setting up all the elements to drop in the shadow, but it's important that the light sources and so on are in the right spot. So, okay. Next thing we're going to do is if the sun was really strongly hitting them here, the edges would be a little glowing. So I'm going to show you how to do that. First thing I do over here is I create a layer below them and hit D for default colors and then fill with foreground color. So I have it black in the back, okay? Now, with that, I'm going to create a new layer of everything that's visible. So Command-Alt-Shift-E, okay? That creates a new layer of everything that's visible. And we're going to call this glow, okay? And let's put this, well, it can stay right in front of the kids, all right? And we're going to turn this into a smart object, as usual. And we're going to put this in screen mode, like so, okay? That way. So I'm going to get rid of this black layer. We don't need it anymore. So now it's just doing a highlight. It's basically the same kids in just everything that's black is being transparent. All right, so I'm going to put it back in normal just so you can see what I'm doing. First thing I'm going to do is Command-L, which is levels, and I'm going to get rid of as much detail as I can in the midtones and shadows. And all I'm really interested in is those highlights, okay? So trying to bring those out as much as I can. Something like this, okay? So that's pretty cool. All right, something like that. All right, after that, I'm going to do a blur, Gaussian blur. And let's do a first one at, let's say, 6 or 5. Like 5 is pretty good. Okay, we'll call this glow, whoops, call this glow sharp. And then new copy, new smart object via copy. And in this one, we're going to go to the Gaussian blur and make it 12 and make this glow blurry. Okay. Now, if I take this and put it into screen mode, look at that first one already. Pretty cool. See that? See that kind of diffuse glow it has over there? And then I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Okay. So it really kind of goes far. All right, let's take both of these. So select by holding down Shift, hold both of these, and then group them. And now we have both our glows in a folder. All right, and the reason for that is we're going to create a little mask because I want the glow up here. I don't want it down here. So simple, take a gradient, make sure you're at 100% opacity, your foreground to transparent, and I'm on the mask here, and I'm going to just say go from here to here. So everything that's down here, see, it created a diagonal gradient. So that glow only shows up here, and I'm pretty happy with that. That's pretty cool. All right, so just a little touch. If you think it's a little too strong, you can tone down the opacity. Let's see. We have the sharp one might be a little strong. Yeah, let's go down to the sharp one and say, well, let's think now 80%. I like that. And the blurry one, I like that one. Okay, cool. Leave that as it is. All right. Once you have the diffuse glow, we actually get to the shadow, the whole point of this tutorial. So here's pretty simple. We have a selection of the kids, all right? So once you've learned to outline, that's pretty simple. And to get it back from the mask, you just command click, or on a PC, control click. Let's create a new layer, okay? And just fill it, edit fill with black. Hit OK, all right? That's behind some other stuff. Let's bring it all the way to the front for now. Okay, and we can go ahead and deselect. Okay, then we'll call this shadow. All right, let's turn this into a smart object. All right, and that way we can manipulate it as we wish. So the first thing we're going to do is let's just bring it below the kids. Okay, so right above here. So you can't really see it, but if you go to Edit and Free Transform. Right, and then bring them down like this, like so, and then you hold down the Command key, which lets you do some free transform over here, and hold on to Shift so it maintains that aspect so it's nice and straight down here. And you can also hold down the Command and Alt and the Alt and Shift, and you'll notice that it does the perspective thing. Right, so I'm going to undo that. I just want. For now, we can always come back. That's the advantage of the smart object. It'll keep, you know, all this ready for us to play with. I want it a little further to the right because the sun's really coming this way, so maybe a little further that way. I feel like the feet should be connected, so bring that back. All right, something like this. Can zoom in a bit if we need to. That's pretty good. Okay, and all right, that's not too bad. Maybe move it 1, 2, 2, 3 pixels to the right. Something like this is pretty good. Maybe make this a little further this way. Bring this up a little bit. Yeah, kind of like that better. I want to exaggerate the shadow. I mean, it's the point of this, right? Adding shadow. Okay, so hit return. One little problem. Shadows are connected perfectly. This one, I believe this foot should be off the ground. So, how do we do that? Double click on your smart object, and now you're in a smart object, which is a PSB, which is a file within a file. Now, what I want to do is bring this shadow down. So, to do that, zoom in a little bit, and use the selection tool, and make a selection. Happens to work perfectly right around here. And I'm going to do Command-T, or free transform, and just bring it in pretty high up. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see. I'm going to hit OK, okay, and I hit Save. Because this file is within this file, it's going to update. So by doing Save, look at that. It moved the shadow. It's a smart object. Pretty smart. All right, so I'm going to close this, and I'm pretty happy with that. A couple of things I want to do to this shadow. First of all, it's way too strong, so let's do 60% to start. Second thing I want to do is I need it to disappear over time. So I click a mask, go to my gradients, but I want a light gradient, something like 60%. And I'm going to go from here up to here. Yeah, that's pretty good. I could do it again. From here to here, maybe. A little too much. Zoom out. Maybe from here to here. Too much. Takes a little bit of playing with getting the angle right. Well, I like that. That's pretty good. And I also would like it to get slightly blurrier. All right. There's a neat little trick here. Go back to the smart object over here, and go to Filter, Blur Gallery, Field Blur. Now, Field Blur by default creates this little point right in the middle, and it's blur 15. Okay, so it's blurring everything. So I'm saying bring it down here, make it 0%, no blur. Make another point right around here, make that 0. Okay. Now the cool thing about this filter field blur is you get to add these points, and it does all the math for you. So I'm saying this point I actually want pretty blurry. These points I want pretty sharp, because I'm saying no blur here. All right. If you notice, look at that. It's magically calculating where it's going to be blurry based on where I position these points. So I want it to be pretty blurry the further away it gets from them, and pretty sharp the closer I get to them. So something like this. It's actually pretty cool. I can make this maybe a little higher. Something like that. I like that. All right. And you hit OK. It's a pretty slow process, but it works. Hit OK. And once it's done doing the math, which the more points you have and the more complex the pixels, the longer it takes. But it's pretty cool. So, all right, 60% might be a little too much. Let's try 50. Whoops. Let's try 50, 50. And I'm pretty happy with that. I could go back to 60, actually. Let's do 60. OK. Now, once we've done the shadow and the blur, I like to finish off with a little overall correction. So Command-Alt-Shift-E to create a new image here. We'll just call this overall correction. All right. And turn this into a smart object, as usual. And let's go to the camera raw and see what we can do here. I would like to do some split toning, as I like to do. In the highlights, I like to be warm, and the shadows, I like to be cold. Let's exaggerate that a little bit. Let's bring the shadows in a little more. Something like this. Kind of like that. It's cool. All right. And let's see, where are we? Kind of a nice little middle ground here. Cool. Maybe a little clarity. Kind of bring it together. Let's do some post-crop vignetting here in the effects. Bring that down. And I'm going a little fast. I'm sorry. I do this almost every tutorial, and it's how I finish most of my composites. And in a nutshell, I try to do a little slight color correction, slight temperature change, because it kind of brings the photo together. I like to add a little contrast, some clarity, bring down the highlights, and then open up the shadows just a touch. Split toning, this is more split toning than I usually do, but basically you're assigning color in the highlights and in the shadows. In this case, I'm picking cold for shadows and warm for highlights. And some post-crop vignetting, which kind of closes the edges. So something like this. All right, and there you go. That's the composite. All right, guys, I hope you liked this episode. I hope you learned something. And if you did, remember to like the video and share it on Facebook or Google+. It really helps me out. And I want to show you this little sneak peek of my new Photoshop workflow course. So here it goes. Hey guys, I wanted to talk to you about my brand new Photoshop workflow course. It's a course I've been working on for quite a while, and it basically teaches you how to take an idea and bring it to execution, final product in Photoshop. And you get all kinds of problems when you have that, where your ideas may be very fantastical. How do you find the photo, or how do you take the right photo? And you get into blending problems, and there's many different scenarios where you need some specific filter or a layer that needs to be blended in a certain way. So here we go through a bunch of different projects. We start off pretty simple with how do you make something with a reflective source a little more exciting. It's pretty simple, but through a few little tricks, it's actually very simple, but you just have to learn it. So here in this example, you can see the before and after, and it's pretty dramatic. Then we get into, we have an idea to do something fantastical. Now there's a lot of different elements here, how to make them all come together to really communicate the idea of I want to do something fantastical and otherworldly. So you can see them all kind of come together in the final composite here. We then take another photo, beautiful photo by my friend Serge Romelli, and we wanted to make it a little more exciting by adding some exotic element to it. So we take the photo and we plop in the tiger and make it all blend together with this, color cast and yellow, light source to get some good color contrast and so on. And you get the final photo here. So pretty exciting. I really like the outcome of this photo. And then we wanted to let's try to make something very Photoshop-like. So we start off with a photo of a light bulb, put some water in it, put a fish in it, put some clouds around and some birds and a sun. It's crazy. There's all these elements, but how do you get them to fit together? That's the trick, and that's what you learn in this course. So there are many more projects like this, which you can see in the before and afters, but we really tackle subjects like, water reflections, refractions, shadows, and where the light source comes from, how do you do proper lighting and blending modes, how do you mask things like different layers or groups and adjustment layers. Anyway, all these tools to make proper composites and retouching. This is really the best course I've ever done, the most meticulous. I really took the time to start off simple so that by the time you're done, even if you started off fairly, beginner level, by the time you're done, you know how to make composites, advanced composites, something that has complexities like water refractions and reflections and how to blur and lots of things to make things real in composites. Things that seem pretty complex, but just going through the motions are pretty simple. So here it is, my brand new Photoshop workflow course.